about you coming, and there were two words that kept coming up: nifty and nerdy.
Huh. Well, I hope nifty means that engineering-wise, very clever, coming up with things that never existed before, saving parts, being efficient.
Yeah.
But those are older days, and I love being known as an engineer.
I was told that at Cebit, if you want to be nifty and nerdy, you have to have a smartphone, and on that smartphone you have to have two apps: 3-month and Tinder. Do you know what those are?
No, I don't even have. No, I'm sorry, I'm missing out. But you know what? Apple though has a different thing. Apple says, hey, smartphone isn't what it does. It isn't functionality like what engineers and nerds want.
Right.
If nerds want, it's jewelry. We have 3 colors this year. 3 colors, like you're going to sucker people into buying something to coordinate with their clothing, with their wardrobe. Not me, but then again, I do have to have one AT&T phone because I have a grandfathered plan. I need Verizon in the United States, and I need the unlocked T-Mobile so I can travel the world. So I have all 3 colors.
Okay, I was going to ask you. Okay, you have all 3 colors. Right. What technology do you use? I mean, most of us run around with smartphones.
What technology? Mostly I use my iPhones as mobile technology, and I use my MacBook Pro computer when I'm in hotels, more efficient typing, larger screen space. A lot of things I try to look up on little small phone tablets and scrolling things back and forth. Maybe you're trying to plan a route, a trip on a map. The computer screen's a lot better for me. So I kind of live in both worlds, and the computer's probably more important overall. And I love also buying all the different, the important phones that get introduced. Smartphones these days are one of the important categories of products, but it might also be, some laser beam projectors, little tiny things. I love buying small little products that do the new things and keeping up with seeing what other people are experiencing. I love to play with other platforms, and then, I know, oh wow, I love seeing, that's clever. How did they think of that? That is so cool. And I don't ever sit there and say, darn, I wish I had it on my iPhone, even if I do.
When you think about Apple today, do you say, wow, that's still cool?
Yes. In the past, Apple's been a leader in setting the new tone and the new direction for the world. And all of our smartphones, no matter what we have, we really have to credit Apple for today's style of smartphone, for one thing. And in the past, companies like Apple was the first one to help develop FireWire, the first one to put the USB ports in their computers. It's just been a company that has this reputation, belief in it. Everyone's looking to Apple for the next future. Not just an improved product, but a new category of product. And it doesn't happen very often, but Apple's been a star. So yeah.
It has been a star, but it's not shining very brightly right now, is it?
Well, we're in one of these periods where, you get to periods of new products that are kind of so good. Apple does something so good, it doesn't have to be changed very much for a long time. Look at even our laptops, the MacBook Pros, and the Airs. They come out and year after year after year. It's kind of like a Mercedes vehicle. They look very similar. You've got to keep the good formulas because you work so hard to put so much good engineering and thought and design into the product. You don't have to change it that mutual. Software changes a lot more now.
Before we talk about tech, let me talk a little business with you. You're a shareholder at Apple. I don't know if you have read this, but the analyst Trip Chowdhury has called for the resignation of Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple. He has said that Cook has been at the helm and has watched Apple shares decline by 25% since September 2012. He says Cook should be fired. What do you think about that?
I don't agree. Cook hasn't been at the helm of Apple for a long enough time to totally judge him. We haven't been able to see what new categories of products are being developed secretly. As Steve Jobs went for a while after he came back from Apple, before the stock ever raised in price with the iPod. We opened it up and we wrote iTunes for Windows. Who knows what's going on in the company? Secondly, losing 25% of what did you lose?
25% in September.
Shareholders care about that when the stock price goes down that much. But we had some stiff competition, let's say, in the smartphone arena. Unfortunately, a lot of other companies came up with great products and sort of did some pitching up. And so that's, I don't take that to be so much. Who's number one? As far as sales, as far as profits, as far as company valuation, who's number one in the world? And your point with the company saying, oh, they're doing something really wrong. Once you're at number one, it's very hard sold everybody else. You know, there's 10 other companies that are trying to push it out.
I mean, I'll get you that.
So,
but
I can't judge it. I don't see the mistakes.
Okay.
Tim Cook is a very, very hard worker. He's very good at execution. And sometimes people can have a lot of artistic vision where we should go, but somebody has to spend, you know, almost 20 hours a day thinking and working on the details to execute properly. And I believe Tim Cook is very good at that. I don't really know him that close and personal, and I'm willing to wait, but I'm willing to wait longer time.
was Steve Jobs' death fatal for the magic at Apple?
I would never say that. That's almost sort of a looking back thing. If he had lived, would Apple be better or worse than it is now? Nobody can say for certain. You don't like to look back and say, what if we had made some different decision? The company would be really great. I'm sorry. What you got to do is say, how can we be constructive and think of a path that will get the best outcome for the world, for Apple, for the products in the future, the direction that Apple is known for. That's, looking back, I mean, Steve Jobs' death, people were saying that before he died. People were saying that years before he died. If he dies, then Apple will be, what will Apple be? But that's a lot, there's a lot of myth that's built up into one person. And the company and the culture and the sort of people that think a certain way there. Tim Cook was more influenced by Steve Jobs than anyone in his life. You know, and he's got other Steve Jobses around him and he knows how to pay attention to when they're coming up with ideas and thinking visions.
But do you think if Steve Jobs were still alive, though, would we be talking about something new? I mean, we're still talking about the iPhone. Do you think that there would be something new that we would be talking about now?
I don't know. I really, my favorite cars in the world are Mercedes. And pretty much this to me.
Well, you're in the right
They've been saying all my life very much, and I like that. You like that stability. There are a lot more people in the world that are not technically oriented like this audience, but are just afraid to acknowledge to the world they don't know how to use a smartphone. And the safest place in the world for them is a safe place that doesn't change, that is protected, that you can count on it. You've got a lot of friends you can ask questions, and you get a lot of help right at stores. You've got a lot of, hey, you can purchase one-on-one training even if you're embarrassed to acknowledge you don't know things. This is the best place for the masses of the world to do it. It's the iPhone. And you know what, to some of my friends, I'll recommend even Android phones. I'll say, oh my gosh, what you like to do and all the things you're into, and you should get, here's a great phone I highly recommend. You should get the Note 3 or something. But for the right person, the masses, oh my gosh, stick with an iPhone. It's the safest bet you can make.
Do we expect too much from Apple?
Do we expect too much from Apple? We expect a lot from Apple. You know, Apple has a lot built in just because of the passionate followers. So I don't know if it's a question of expecting too much. Yes, I think there's an awful lot of people in the technology community, the bloggers, the passionate people that are looking for hot new products like the iPhone and the iPad to come out again very quickly. I want to wait 6 months. What does Apple have? And I think that's, there's too much expectation that Apple can do something in a half a year that normally happens once a decade.
There is a lot of talk right now about the tension that is growing between Silicon Valley companies and Washington. Trust issues, spying issues. Should Silicon Valley companies, should Apple companies, should they be angry and upset with the U.S. government?
You know what? I'm an iPhone user. I'm a user. I believe in the small guy. The individual consumer is the important one that needs protection. We don't know who we can trust when it's a company with millions of lines of code in their product or a government. You have no idea. In the early days, you bought a product and it was guaranteed, it was supposed to do one thing in your life, and it did that one thing and it didn't do a bunch more. Maybe it was a shovel, it just worked. Maybe it was even a printer and it just worked and did its job. And nowadays, you have no idea what's going on. No, I really am glad to see Tim Berners-Lee asking for some kind of Bill of Rights. It should be like maybe every single owner of every smart product should be able to have a log listing every bit of data that was sent in or out of their product while they used it.
You say we can't really trust any company. Can we trust Apple?
I can't say that for sure. I have no idea. Could there be secret back doors inside of the products? I don't know. I'm not that close enough to